Okay, this is not easy to put all these hyperlinks in. Like, this thing took hours to put together. Like, this is so ridiculous.
How about the calm in the driver's seat? I pick you up, but there's only room for me.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to WardRadio. I'm your host, Cardin Ellis. Today I'm joined in the studio by Brittany the Shadow, as well as via Zoom by Luke Hansen, editor-in-chief of WardRadio News, who is here to talk to us about Australian stakes. An Australian stake got hacked by disciples of the CES letter. They're hacking the Mormons, man. What's going on?
That's what it seems like. I mean, this isn't new because we had Corbin over RFM over on his channel trying to do some like come follow me, and it was geared towards members like, hell, you fellow kids, I'm gonna teach you about Alma 32.
But that's overt underhandedness, not covert hacking. So yes. They got hacked?
Apparently, yeah.
Is that a response to Austin and the Light and Truth letter?
I don't know, man. Apparently. But the Light and Truth letter is way better than the CES letter. It's like actually coherent. It tells a coherent story rather than just random facts. But
well, I'm saying when Austin hijacked the CES letter website, so that's
true. Maybe it's payback.
Yeah, payback. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I was about to say that's the first time it's always funny. So now, was this like a malicious hack? Did the credit cards of the church get stolen, or is this just somebody's profile picture on Facebook would change? Give us all the nitty gritty.
Well, okay. So if you pull up the screenshots in the Discord, okay, and shout out, I guess I can't believe I'm saying this, but shout out to ex-Mormon Reddit, I guess, for giving us for talking about this, and then shout out to moderators and whoever it was that posted it. I'll put you in the comments.
All right, I see it right here.
You can see, and if you pull up the first one, I don't know if you have the first page pulled up.
Here it is.
But it's basically like the official church email template.
Yeah.
And then somebody spent like 3 hours or something writing in a little mini-CES letter to it, pretending to be, it appears as if it's either pretending to be the stake president or the stake presidency. And
okay.
So yeah, you can just start reading it.
I was about to say, I see it right here. So if you look at the very top, it says the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, view this email in your browser. So it's obviously some kind of email that came through the official channels of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which is a little bit troubling and leads us to think, obviously it was a family member.
They got emails somehow.
Yeah. So they got an official information. They got an official stake president's email here. Okay. So Sydney, Australia, Mortdale stake, pilot program informed consent. Okay. Well, this is one of those BS terms that ex-Mormon, anti-Mormons come up with to justify their cruelty. So I would have recognized almost right away just by that, okay, this is a buzzword for the anti-Mormons.
Did John DeLynn start that, or is he just kind of championed it, the informed consent?
No, he definitely championed it. And it's also, again, just it's the noble. What's anti-Mormon rule number 5? I think it's they shroud their cruelty in noble sound bites. And informed consent is this idea that you can't engage in a relationship without being kind of informed ahead of time, as much as possible as to like how difficult it's going to be or how hard it's going to be, or like if you're going to go on a roller coaster, they should post on there like may cause vomiting or something like that. So in order to justify their cruelty towards family members, a lot of ex-Mormon, anti-Mormons say like, oh, I'm not engaged in besmirching somebody's sincerely held religious beliefs. I'm just trying to create informed consent for the youth or those that are going to get baptized, or for
by hacking their emails.
And by the way, by informed consent, what I mean is actually, I'm not telling them actually what's really going to happen and what the real history is. That must be my pseudo-historical interpretation that all my woke schooled friends on ex-Mormon subreddit taught me. And until they believe that, they're not good people and they hate XYZ ABC. So anyway, we'll read it here. Without any further ado, this is what it says. Do you want me to just read it?
Yeah,
Luke,
we can just read through it, go by it piece by piece.
So, dear brothers and sisters, I have some wonderful news. Your stake has been chosen to trial a new approach to learning about the gospel. As you know, our leaders are trying to be more transparent with some of the messiness in our history. No doubt you have all started to notice this with the release of the Gospel Topics essays 10 years ago and the videos of President Nelson showing us how Joseph translated the Book of Mormon with his face in a white stovepipe hat with a seer stone. This pilot program will involve two different objectives. The first is for our beloved missionaries to ensure that all converts are fully informed before they commit to baptism with no more milk before meat. The second is for all members to go through a short lesson to make sure they are fully informed about our history. Too many of our members are discovering our difficult history on ex-Mormon websites and podcasts, and it is sadly leading them astray. Oh my gosh, you totally can tell that an ex-Mo anti-horn. Yeah, like they're so self-congratulatory. It's like, oh my gosh, dog. If Jesus Christ could advocate for me in the final judgment, only half as well as the ex-Mormon subredditors think they are awesome,
you're good to go.
Dude, I am in good shape.
You're getting in.
Pure as the driven snow. All right. So anyway, the letter continues. The brethren.
It also doesn't make any sense, meat before milk, with no more milk before meat. Like, the scriptures say to put the milk before. I don't get what they're. You do you, man.
Well, I think
doesn't make sense.
I think one of their, if they were, first off, I think they're trying to use a beloved term within the active member community, which is milk before meat. And this actually, I think, is one of the only things that might be alluding to a fair criticism that, like Dave Butler says, Sunday school is atrophied into LDS feelings barn. Like, yes, we need to be cultivating patience and we need to be sharing anecdotes and data that helps people understand the value of patience, what patience is, the true definition thereof, inspiring stories of people that have been patient and it's helped them out in their spirituality and so on and so forth. Some might consider that milk. Others might consider their toxic version of history the meat. But I will say there has been kind of like a Tony Robbins focus the past like 20, 30 years on crafting our soul and our patience that has been put ahead of maybe like honestly some hardcore doctrinal studies like Lehi in the Desert written by like Hugh Nibley or something, right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, the last paragraph says the brethren have also noticed the number of worrying beliefs have crept in that are not backed by doctrine or come from the mouth of our prophets. So they are wanting to clear the decks and ensure that some of the more troubling beliefs being whispered around the halls are finally put to rest. Okay, at this point, it's just becoming comedic. So
yeah.
So how do we
and
know
being
that
an editor of WardRadio News, you can tell when somebody's not a seasoned writer because it just gets too long. Like it starts to say the same things over and over again. It kind of gets self-referential and self-congratulatory and I lost the word. See, I did it. I started going off too long. C.S. Lewis. No. Mark Twain. This is not necessarily his quote. It's been attributed to several people, but he said, if I had more time, I would have written a shorter letter.
Yes.
So the more verbose it is, the less time you know that they put into it.
Yes.
Okay, but how do we know this was actually circulated and it's not just being posted on ex-Mormon subreddit hoping to get us to talk about it or get people to talk about it? How do we know it was actually circulated?
That would be hard to do because this is like the exact font and heading and color scheme and all that stuff that actual church emails put out.
Okay.
So have members been able to confirm that they did indeed receive this? Or is this just somebody's like, wouldn't it be nice if this happened and they posted it on social media?
Well, the original post said email received by an entire stake in Sydney, Australia. Email was then mass deleted. And then they even in a later one that we'll get to said which stake it was specifically. So it's not like an anonymous letter to a CES director that I totally sent to him after a faith crisis. It's not that. It's like, yeah, this is like an actual copy of the legit letter from this specific stake sent on this day. It even has the time. It was like, and it was sent at 7:30 on Sunday evening. Like, so it definitely passes the sniff test for being an actual thing that was sent out to people in a stake.
So this ended up being a really long letter. Like I realize in the Discord.
Let's just go through some of this because it's kind of funny.
Yeah, like this is crazy. And by the way, how long it is. I mean, I am pulling page after page of screenshot here in the Discord. They would have done better. Like, I'm all about a prank. So first off, like when they wanted to light up the Y and the gay colors for gay pride, like that's just funny. Some people might consider it rude. That wasn't
a prank to them, though. They didn't see that as a prank. They saw it as we're literally saving lives right now.
Okay,
like
sure.
It was not a prank to them. They took it very seriously.
Okay. So I kind of viewed it as a prank, and I'm like, okay, cool. Austin Fife buying the URL on the CES letter, and then putting
that was definitely a prank.
the Light and Truth letter. Okay, well, that's a prank, right? And I'm like, okay, that's funny. This I can actually kind of laugh at. I mean, it's funny if an entire state got hacked and they put in the CES letter. But I will say this.
It's just kind of sad that somebody spent all this time, though, to
that's what I was going to say.
Personal information and then put this out there. Like, did you really have nothing better to, like, I heard the last Star Wars show was halfway decent. Maybe you could have like done that instead of this. I don't know, man.
And let's be honest.
It's like a waste.
How many of us actually read the church emails?
That is kind of
like when my stake presidency sends something, I kind of skim and I'm like, okay, whatever, and it goes in the trash. Like,
well, that's what I'm saying here is what I was gonna say.
The kind of people who would read this email are the kind of people who already would have read the gospel topics essay anyway. So Brittany's totally right. They just kind of shot themselves in the foot with this.
Well, shooting themselves in the foot. That's what I was gonna say, because in my estimation here, by virtue of the fact that they made it so long, they shot themselves in the foot. Whereas if they just would have said, oh, dear Sydney Stake, we're engaged in a new trial program to show some of the more messy aspects of church history. Here is a link to the online survey. We would like you to read it and then get back to us as soon as possible. And like the link could be
that would have been so much more effective if you actually wanted
yes.
to. We're going to cover the following topics and then just one bullet point each for each of them instead of like this whole paragraph and putting silly things. Have you seen this? I just saw this while you were talking. It was like a new paragraph. It said, so take a deep breath and let's dive in the deep end. So self-congratulatory. We're not getting our own planets.
Oh, wow.
That's the first one.
Wow.
This is not in our scriptures, nor is it doctrine.
This is
And
funny.
then number 2, we're not becoming a god.
Wow.
Okay, and see, this is writing tips if you're writing news stuff or like from an objective voice. It says the Book of Abraham is sadly not what Joseph claimed it was. That sadly doesn't need to be there. That's commentary on the information you're giving. Just get it out of there.
That's funny.
It makes you look like an amateur.
Well, and then also, okay, so this is the difference between, like, you know how Elon Musk said the left can't meme?
Silly. Yeah.
You know, okay, so the left can't meme because brevity is the essence of wit. And it's so interesting. You know how you say they can leave the church, but they can't leave it alone? It's like they had a chance at a prank, but they can't leave it alone. They can't just drop the funny in there and say, oh, dear Sydney Stake, we're going to be in this trial program to read the new gospel topics essay, insert link to CES letter here. Please read the entire attached document and get back to us here. Insert link to Ex-Mormon subreddit. Thank you. The Stake Presidency. Boom. That would have been a home run to actually get people to read the CES letter and be like, hey, what? Wait, you'd probably literally have some old people that didn't even know what it was, like devouring the entire thing, like thinking they were being righteous about it. But they had to just keep going, page after page after page.
Look at this sentence.
They had to keep going. Yeah, which sentence?
They have to. They have some sort of it's like a virus or something that every time they have an opportunity to insert the cliche, they have to insert the cliche.
Okay.
So here's another one. It says, rather than viewing the websites and looking to all the footnote source material, read Read this below rather than viewing the websites and looking into all the footnotes / source material to get the full faithful picture. So they have, Mormons can only read faithful sources. So I have to say they're going to get the full faithful picture. And like, they just, this is silly.
Yeah. And I'm actually reading here. Let's just go over the top, like 3 points before we call it a day here.
Keep saying sadly, too many sadlies.
Yeah.
We already know that it's sad that the translation is 100% incorrect. You don't need to say it. You don't need to provide commentary, guys.
Yeah, so I'm just going to burn through here and I'm going to choose a couple randomly, okay? So the only thing that gets 4 stars is the premise and the opening page because it at least looked real. It was far too long, but at least looked real. So high marks on that. Unfortunately, on the second page... So take a deep breath and let's dive into the deep end. You're right. That's just like, oh gosh, nobody serious writes that way. You've lost the plot. But we're not becoming a god. Church news. Joseph translated the characters.
And that's just wrong. Like,
yeah, it's just wrong. And then they go straight into polygamy. Then they end up jumping and going straight into the translation.
Well, look at polygamy. It says he was intimate with his wives and possibly had 2 to 3 children with them. And this is what I love. They're like, we have to look at the objective facts, and the objective fact is we have 0 children. There's none. And so you can't be presenting like, well, you're the brainwashed one, and then I'm just providing you the dispassionate facts. Don't get mad at me, man. President Oaks was the one that told you couldn't read this. Like, and then they just put in blatantly false stuff. So
yeah,
good for them.
So it's really funny because the other thing that makes me laugh about reading this is they really can never choose their lane. Are they going for the evangelical attacks that, you will never become gods and you've misinterpreted the essence of God, and you want to argue?
Even the milk before meat one is like an evangelical attack.
Yes, that's an evangelical attack. Mm-hmm. But, they're going to come here and say like, okay, well, look, you've misquoted the book of Matthew. Jesus Christ didn't say X, Y, or Z thing that appears in the Book of Mormon in the book of Matthew. And it's like, okay, so are you recognizing the book of Matthew as sacred scripture and needs to be honored? Well, no, it's atheistic garbage. Or no, sorry, it's, believing garbage and I'm an atheist. So it's like you need to pick your lane. Which is it? Like, where your evangs coming at us for misinterpreting scripture that is sacred and shouldn't be messed with because it's true and it's sacred, or we're all a bunch of rubes and idiots. Like, pick your lane. Luke, you were going to say something.
I actually wasn't. I was just surprised that they said Joseph Smith had children outside of Emma a second time.
Yeah, which he didn't, which is kind of weird. So anyway, this last page I thought was kind of interesting. They put in a ton of hyperlinks, and their brethren are slowly...
Okay, this is not easy to put all these hyperlinks in. Like, this thing took hours to put together. Like, this is so ridiculous. I can't believe this. Yeah, like 5 Relief Society presidents probably actually read this. And they went to all this. It's kind of sad. Like, the funniness peaks at the beginning, and then you're just like, you spent that much time.
You know what? That was a great observation, and it is a perfect analog to all my friends that have gone through the experience of becoming toxic ex-Mormon subreddit anti-Mormons. The peak is at the beginning when you're a rock star for leaving. And it's a good idea. Pat on the back. Yeah, let's go party. Let's try every illicit drug. Every espresso coffee with 500 milligrams of caffeine that'll stop your heart. You know what I'm saying? Like, just like, yeah. And then it just gets more boring and worse and horrible and toxic afterwards until they finally realize, like, what am I doing here? And as that one, so
look, like,
40%
we're just giving you, we're just being more open about our history. This isn't it's faithful sources. And then there's just total conjecture. It's possible that Oliver Cowdery denied his testimony at the Book of Mormon. This is only a secondhand source, though.
Oh, that is
but it was
really
published
funny.
in a church-run newspaper, and it was that. And see, once again, it's like an evangelical type of thing, because this is the Mike Winger one, where he cited like a poem from the Millennial Star Nauvoo that said, like, the church is still true even if this happened, and it's still true even if it was denied by Oliver. It's like, that's a hypothetical. That's not a secondhand. They don't even know what a secondhand source is. Somebody besides the main person saying it's not a secondhand source. It has to be someone who said they heard it directly from that other person. This is just like some words that were on a paper that don't even say what you said they said.
Yeah.
But it still merited, it still rose to the level. And it gives the game away of how bad their evidence against the church is if you got to be desperately grasping at the straws of like, well, there was a poem once in the May 2nd edition of the 1843 Millennial Star that wasn't sourced and doesn't say what I said it said, but
this is the last
now
thing.
Maybe one of the 20 people who saw the Book of Mormon might have denied their testimony, kind of, sort of, not really at all.
Yeah.
And it just proves how strong the testimony actually is, that you're going to this thing to say, oh, maybe it probably was actually wrong.
Yeah, that's funny. So last thing I will notice, and then Brittany, I want to know what you're thinking here because I see you smiling and it's pretty funny over there. It's really interesting. Like DNA evidence has shown conclusively the American Indians came from Siberia and not the Middle East. The discovery then led to the introduction of the Book of Mormon being altered to say, well, no, that again, it's bad history and bad science. Like no geneticist would stand by the comment that all American Indians are Siberians. I mean, yes, that's woefully reductive. And then also, church history didn't start with the 1920 translation of the Book of Mormon, where some overzealous academics decided to rewrite the introduction and then tie American Indian genetics to the Lamanites and the Nephites. In fact, genetics are actually vindicating a lot of the early pioneers and the suspicions that the First Nations that we have in Canada and the American Indians, as we call them in the United States of America, are actually at least the second group to occupy this continent, and that they most likely replaced the first genetic group. Some say 2,500 years ago, some say 6,000 years ago, others say 12,000, and that they survived the last ice age, so on and so forth. They disagree on the timelines, but they do agree that what we perceive now as First Nations actually might be more appropriately called Second Nations, and so on and so forth. So if you're
Native American history is way more interesting and intricate than anti-Mormons make it out to be.
Yes, exactly.
We could leave it there.
Yes.
If you read 1492 by Charles C. Mann, pretty fascinating book.
Exactly. So anyway, Brittany, your thoughts. You've just received this in your inbox, and we know that you
actually read it.
Yeah, I was like, first of all, I would not even read this. I would just be like, junk email, junk. And if I did read it, though, automatically I would be like, this... it's too long. Like, I'm not going to read it. Like, let's just be real. I would never read this.
They bored their audience to tears.
Yeah, immediately no.
It's like, Cora Bore.
And then I was just thinking, like, why was this stake president or stake presidency attacked? To me, this is giving disgruntled anti-Mormon son who hacked his dad's computer and sent out an email.
Yeah, who's the one that didn't I don't know, get a password key? Who's the one that used their old Internet Explorer?
But I think their stake IT specialist is going to do a little training after this. Okay. Maybe even the area will do a little IT training after this. 2-factor authentication and stuff like that. Funny. Public Wi-Fi, all the things.
Probably a good idea.
Look, I shouldn't say I like it. I like the premise. It unfortunately, they just can't control themselves with the self-congratulatory and the boring length. So they lost me by not making it short and sweet. But yeah, anyway, your final thoughts, man. Final thoughts.
My final thoughts are that the brethren are slowly moving towards the idea of the Book of Mormon being an inspired work created by Joseph Smith, rather than a little history of the ancient inhabitants of the American continent. This allows for him to have included so many ideas/stories from his immediate surroundings in the work. And then they give 3 quotes. Look, definitive proof, you guys. Like, this whole stake is going to apostatize now. It's going to be terrible. Look, one time in 2016, President Nelson said, the Book of Mormon is not a textbook of history. And it's not a record of all the former inhabitants in the Western Hemisphere.
Kind of
didn't
like...
Didn't you just hear it right now go... It's starting to bend. It's gonna break.
Okay, so we'll have to make some more Facebook
silly.
ads for this steak to win him back, and it'll take less time to do that than all those stupid hyperlinks in that essay was sent out.
Well, the thing is, this is actually a fantastic opportunity for the steak to start the program that Jacob was talking about, that we just put an episode out about, calling an apologetics person, getting a class together, meeting on, I don't know, Wednesdays after bingo or something like that.
Bingo.
And just going through. But if I was the stake president, okay? If I was the stake president, I would take the top 5 dumbest arguments from this and put out a 3/4 salty, like 7.5 out of 10 level sarcastic email out to the whole stake, just debunking it, and then never bring it up again.
So what's really interesting though is Alicia Brown, one of our moderators, actually said that anti-Mormonism is a wildly American thing and that you Yanks have to deal with it and so on and so forth, which kind of makes me wonder is, have we exported our toxic suburban anti-Mormonism to Australia now? Do the Australians have to worry about the toxic CES letter apostles and subreddit
this is
minions
more like a
now?
Draper thing, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like we had a video recently in which we were debunking the anti-Mormon Kiwi dude, and Jonah Barnes brought up a good point, and he said, look, this is not an advancement of your culture. He said, look, this is American football and tribalism, and yeah, my team's better than your team, and so on and so forth, being exported into religion. And like, New Zealanders are great people. Like, it's a chill culture. Like, you're great because what you aren't about us, like, do not import this. This is not an upgrade. And so you kind of look at, Aussies behaving this way. And it's like, I'd like to think that the Exmo Aussies don't turn toxic North American anti-Mormon subreddit, troll. I hope they just stay cool. Like, oh, I'm inactive in surfing on Sundays now, instead of like spending 15 hours developing 1,300 different hyperlinks just so I can gloat to my digital buddies I've never met on the most toxic cesspool in cyberspace. Like, this is not an upgrade, bro. Hit the Great Barrier Reef, go surfing, go scuba diving, go do yoga. Like, you know what I'm saying?
They have more references than a Dallin H. Oaks conference talk. Like, that's how many hyperlinks are in this thing. Maybe Dallin H. Oaks and D. Todd Christofferson combined.
All right.
Crazy.
So anyway, guys down under, let us know if you indeed did receive this message in your inbox. Were you a recipient of this prank, this joke, this hack? Let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Subscribe to Ward Radio News by going to wardradio.com and signing up for the newsletter. And as always, for this and more, please make sure you check us out at wardradio.com.
How about the calm in the driver's seat? I pick you up, but there's only room for me.
Subscribe, hit the notification bell, or else you're a Babylon bootlicker. You love the government and you hate your wife. Or you don't have a wife, but you love the government. Ugh. I bet you, and you drink soy lattes and believe that George Bush's presidency was good for America. The Patriot Act was so good, huh? You love it. I bet you love when people watch you. I bet you love to. Never mind. I won't finish that.